They laughed at my hobby until my work was featured at my sister's wedding. My name is Liam. I'm 29. I restore antiques, and I have exactly 0 bullet points my mother considers brag-able. I'm the kid who brings a hand-stitched loaf to a potluck where everyone else brings receipts. My family measures love in LinkedIn updates. I measure it in sanding dust and the way walnut smells when it wakes up under oil. Liam, park around back, she texted before family dinner, like my hatchback might embarrass the hydrangeas. I showed up with a small gift anyway, a Victorian balloon-back chair I'd rescued from a curb, recushioned with dove gray linen, tufted with a single green thread only I would notice. For the entry, I said, pretending the house needed something that wasn't already curated to death. Mom glanced at it like it had coughed. We don't do secondhand. It's 19th century, I said. Exactly. Olivia swept in 5 minutes late, glittering, carrying a laugh like a chandelier. Everyone, this is Ethan. Her new boyfriend, the kind who calls waiters boss and wears a watch like a promise. He's in branding, she added, eyes on me. He helps people turn hobbies into stories. Businesses, Ethan corrected, shaking my hand. He squeezed too long. So you're the fixer of grandma stuff. Restorer, I said. Sometimes historian. He nodded like a teacher indulging a child. Cute. My brother, Ben, arrived last with his Bluetooth still in, talking about a merger like it had personally chosen him. He clapped my shoulder. Still at the little shop? You should sell those chairs as NFTs. Ben, I said, those are pictures of nothing. Exactly. Infinite inventory. At dinner, Mom had assigned me the squeaky stool at the end. Olivia positioned Ethan between my parents like he already lived there. So, she said, stabbing asparagus, Liam glues old chairs and calls it artistry. He even named his glue. Laughter. Ethan leaned forward, palms up. I'm curious, man. What's your 5-year plan? Exit? Scale? Or is it? What do you call it? Bespoke poverty. Ethan, I said calmly. Last week I restored a writing desk used by a suffragette in 1908. The museum cried when I delivered it. Olivia rolled her eyes. A museum of dust. Ben chuckled. Mom refilled Ethan's wine. Liam's passionate, she said, which is what she says about weather patterns and toddlers drawing on walls. Then the unexpected. Ethan pulled out his phone and put my Instagram on the table. My feed, my work, my hands. Your photos would be great content for Liv's pitch. With a filter it reads, vintage cottage core. We'll borrow a few, yeah? I don't consent, I said. It's family, Mom said. Be generous. I felt something inside me tilt, quietly at first, like a glass sliding toward the edge. It wasn't the jokes. I've been a punchline since I chose chisels over spreadsheets. It was the way Olivia mimed screwing a bolt and Ethan laughed like she'd discovered electricity. It was Ben announcing, by the way, Dad's selling Nana's rocking chair. It clashes with the new rug. That chair is why I started, I said. I recane it every year on her birthday. Then you can buy it, Mom said sweetly. At family rate. Silence pooled. And then the chair I'd brought, my careful, quiet offering, made the tiniest sound as Mom dragged it to the mudroom. We'll hide it, she said, smiling. For when clients come. Ethan raised his glass. To winners. I heard myself laugh. It sounded wrong in my mouth. You know what? Keep the chair. I stood. The stool squealed like a protest. And keep the jokes. You've been rehearsing them for years. Olivia smirked. Don't be sensitive. Sensitive is noticing when wood breathes, I said. Insensitive is sanding a person down until they're glossy and hollow. Mom set her napkin down, crisp as a contract. Liam, if you're going to sulk, go. I looked at my hands, scarred, steady mine. I'm going, I said. I just finally realized what you are. What's that? Ben asked. An audience that never claps. I walked out without my coat. On the porch, I sat on the step because they'd hidden my chair, and I laughed again, softer. For the first time, the cold felt honest. 3 weeks passed, and I buried myself in my workshop, a cramped but holy space that smelled like varnish and redemption. The chair I'd built for Mom sat in the corner, the same green thread catching sunlight through the dusty window. Every time I looked at it, I felt both foolish and strangely proud. Foolish for trying again. Proud for walking away. The night after that dinner, I'd waited for anyone, to call. They didn't. Not even Olivia, who usually texted some backhanded, no hard feelings message after every family blow up. But this time, radio silence. It was like I'd been quietly erased. Until one morning, while sketching a frame design, my phone buzzed. Olivia. Hey Liam, we're having a dinner next Friday. Big news, hope you can come. Bring that chill attitude, lol. I read it 3 times, laughing bitterly at the lol. My thumb hovered over delete. But curiosity got me. Big news could only mean one thing: engagement. And I'll admit, some part of me wanted to see if they could act like humans for one evening. That night, I told my friend Max about it while we sanded a cabinet together. Don't go, he said flatly, pushing his safety goggles up. You know how that movie ends. Maybe this time it's different. He laughed. Bro, your sister weaponizes small talk. He wasn't wrong. But something in me needed closure. Or maybe I wanted to prove, to myself, that I could face them and not flinch. So Friday came. I shaved, wore my best shirt, the one without glue stains, and brought a simple bouquet of dried lavender I'd wrapped in brown paper. When I arrived, Mom greeted me with that overly bright smile people use before a performance. Oh, you made it, she said, like I was a late RSVP instead of her son. Would have been rude not to, I replied. The table was set with silver-rimmed plates, Olivia glowing at the center like she owned the air. And beside her, Ethan again, now sporting a smug grin and a diamond box on the table. Surprise! Olivia squealed, flashing the ring. We're engaged. The family erupted in applause, even Dad clapping like he'd just sealed a deal. I forced a smile. Congratulations. Ethan winked. Guess hard work does pay off, huh? Olivia laughed, brushing his arm. And don't worry, Liam. We'll find something antique looking for the wedding so you can feel included. Ben snorted. Mom said, That's enough, Olivia. But she was smiling when she said it. I took a breath, steadying the heat in my chest. You know what, Liv? I hope your wedding's beautiful. Just, maybe you should treat the people you invite like guests, not props. Her expression froze. Excuse me. I'm not here for your script anymore. Mom's voice sharpened. Liam, please. We're celebrating. Celebrating what? I asked. That I'm still the family embarrassment? That you only call when you need someone to play the underdog? Ben leaned back, muttering, Here we go again. And that was it, the last push. Years of biting my tongue spilled out all at once. You think I don't notice? The way you laugh at me, talk over me, pretend my life's just a placeholder until I grow up? I make things that last. You trade things that vanish in a quarter. And somehow I'm the disappointment? Olivia's smile vanished. You're ruining my night. No, I said quietly. I'm finally having mine. The silence was thick. Then Mom folded her napkin like she was sealing a letter. If you can't behave, she said, cold as marble, don't expect an invitation to the wedding. I stood, pushing my chair back slowly. I'll save you the postage. And I left again. But this time, something in me stayed standing even after I walked out. That night, back in my workshop, I sat among the quiet hum of tools and half-finished dreams. My hands shook, not from anger, but release. I'd finally said what I'd been swallowing for years. I didn't know it yet, but the silence that followed wasn't the end. It was the echo before something new began, a message I was about to receive that would change everything. The morning after that dinner, I woke up to a silence that didn't sting, just settled, like the world had exhaled. No texts, no apologies, no family pretending it hadn't happened. For once, I didn't chase the silence. I let it sit. I went to the workshop early. The sun hadn't fully risen, and the dust in the air looked like glitter in the first light. I brewed some terrible instant coffee and stared at my workbench. The chipped wood, the burn marks, the shavings curled like ribbon. This space had never judged me, never told me I wasn't enough. I turned on the radio, sanded the arm of an old chaise, and tried to forget Olivia's face when I walked out. But it kept flickering in my mind, that mix of disbelief and fury, as if I'd broken some family law. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it. But something made me pick up. Liam Hayes, a voice said, deep, calm, older. Speaking. This is Arthur Blake. I run Blake and Sons Restoration in Brighton. I froze. Arthur Blake was the Arthur Blake, the guy whose work was featured in design magazines, who restored pieces for royal estates. I'd followed his career since I was 19. I've seen your work online, he continued. That suffragette desk? The finish was flawless. You captured the grain like it was breathing. I blinked, wondering if this was a prank. You've seen that? I don't say this lightly, but you've got an eye most people can't learn. I'm looking to expand, maybe bring in a partner for a limited collection. Would you be interested in meeting? For a second, I forgot how to speak. Ah, yes, absolutely. Good, he said. I'll send you an address. Bring something that represents you. After we hung up, I just stood there, phone in hand, heartbeat hammering. Someone real, had seen me. Not as a disappointment. Not as a punchline. As an artist. That afternoon, I started sketching designs like a man possessed. By the next day, my shop was alive again. I repolished the Victorian chair that Mom had banished to the mudroom, the one with the green thread, and decided that would be the piece I'd bring. 2 days later, I drove to Brighton in my beat-up hatchback. Arthur's workshop was a cathedral of wood, oak beams, soft jazz, the scent of beeswax and heritage. He greeted me in a worn leather apron, silver hair pulled back. He inspected my chair, running his fingers along the joinery. Clean work. Confident. You respect the piece without trying to outshine it. That's the goal, I said quietly. He smiled. Most people want to be seen. You want the object to speak. That's rare. We spent hours talking about wood, history, design philosophy, even the poetry of imperfection. By the end, he said, let's collaborate. I'll mentor you. We'll do a limited restoration line. Hayes X. Blake. I nearly laughed. You're serious? Of course. I don't waste time with things I don't believe in. That night, driving home, the world looked different, like the edges had sharpened. I passed my parents' neighborhood and, for the first time, didn't feel the pull to turn in. My worth wasn't waiting at their table anymore. It was in my hands, my craft, my name. The next weeks were a blur. Arthur introduced me to clients, taught me how to negotiate, even helped me design a small logo. Orders began to trickle in. I worked late, covered in sawdust and joy. Then one evening, while I was cleaning up, another message pinged on my phone. Unknown. We're filming a special episode of Design in Detail, a luxury wedding feature. We'd love you to contribute custom pieces. Are you available? My heart thudded. I scrolled down and saw the venue name. The High Ridge Estate. Olivia's wedding venue. I stared at the screen, and for the first time in months, I laughed out loud. Not out of anger, but disbelief. Looks like fate wants an encore, I whispered to the empty shop. And this time, I wasn't walking in as the family embarrassment. I was walking in as the artist they'd refused to see. I reread the email 3 times that night, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. The High Ridge Estate. Olivia's wedding. The same place my mother had bragged about last year. A venue for real people of success. The message was from Design in Detail, a national TV show that spotlighted artisans contributing to high-end events. They wanted me to craft custom centerpiece furnishings, tables, podiums, and something special for the bridal photography set. I leaned back in my chair, the workshop quiet except for the hum of the heater. Of all the weddings in the world, it had to be hers. Arthur called the next morning. So, he said, in that calm, slightly amused voice, you've been discovered. I laughed. You could say that. The project's complicated. How so? It's my sister's wedding. There was a pause, then a chuckle. Family. The hardest clients. I explained everything. The dinner, the insults, the years of being dismissed. Arthur didn't interrupt, just listened, hands folded. When I finished, he said simply, then do it. Not for them. For you. I don't want to look like I'm revenge. He smiled. You're not. You're creating beauty. If that beauty happens to make certain people reconsider their laughter, well, that's not your fault. That settled it. I accepted the offer. The next few weeks blurred into a rhythm of work and renewal. The show's producer, Maya, visited my studio to discuss the theme. The wedding's going for a vintage modern look, she said, flipping through sketches. Olivia wants timeless but dramatic. I snorted before I could stop myself. Maya looked up. You know her? Let's just say, we've shared dinner before. She raised an eyebrow but didn't pry. Then you'll nail her aesthetic. Together we designed 3 major pieces. A pair of oak tables, hand-carved with vine patterns, symbolizing growth and legacy. An archway podium for the ceremony, sleek lines meeting antique filigree. A green velvet love seat, inspired by a Victorian fainting couch, for the wedding portraits. I poured everything I had into them. Each night, The smell of varnish and coffee filled the air as I carved, sanded, and stitched. I used the same shade of green thread from that first chair, the one my mother had hidden. A quiet signature, a whisper of defiance. Arthur visited often, offering advice but letting me lead. "You've found your rhythm," he said one night, running his hand over the arch's curve. "Don't lose that fire." I smiled. "It's not fire. It's focus." When the last piece was loaded into the truck, I felt both proud and terrified. I'd never had my name displayed publicly before. Maya assured me, "We'll have your plaque right at the entrance. People love knowing who made what they're admiring." The day of the wedding arrived crisp and golden. I arrived early to oversee placement. The estate looked like a painting, marble columns, ivy walls, fountains whispering secrets. My pieces stood gleaming under the morning light. The love seat, in particular, drew stares from the production crew. "Whoever did this," one of them said, "has hands like a poet." I smiled quietly. "I'll tell him you said that." By noon, guests started arriving, glittering, laughing, carrying champagne before the ceremony even began. I kept mostly to the side, helping Maya's team with final touches. Then I heard a voice I hadn't expected to miss and never wanted to hear again. "Wait," Olivia said sharply. "Why is his name here?" I turned. She was standing by the entrance, immaculate in white silk, eyes fixed on the gold plaque that read, "Furnishings by Liam Hayes, Antique Restoration and Design." Her jaw dropped. You made these?" I met her stare, calm as water. "All of them." Before she could speak, our mother appeared behind her, face pale as porcelain. "Liam," she breathed. "Why are you here?" "I was hired," I said. "Professionally." Olivia's voice rose. "You're using my wedding to show off your workshop junk." I almost laughed. Funny, the guests seemed to like my junk. And as if on cue, a producer called out from across the lawn, "Liam, could you stand by the love seat for a photo? The light's perfect." I nodded, stepped away from them, and walked toward my work, toward the only place I'd ever felt truly at home. Behind me, I heard Olivia hiss to our mother, "He's ruining everything." And Mom whisper back, "No, darling. He's just finally visible." For the first time in years, I didn't flinch at her voice. For the first time, I felt taller than the shadows they'd built around me. I'd planned to leave after the setup, quietly, cleanly, without ceremony, but Maya asked me to stay. "We're filming some behind-the-scenes shots," she said, waving her clipboard. "It'd be great if we caught you interacting with guests." So I stayed, keeping to the edges like I always did at family events. Except this time, I wasn't an afterthought at the table. I was the reason the room looked like it did. The reception tent shimmered with light. The air smelled of roses and money. My oak tables gleamed under chandeliers, the carved vines catching the gold glow like they were alive. People traced their fingers along the edges, murmuring compliments. I overheard one guest say, "These pieces are museum quality." And there, just beyond them, was Olivia, perfect as always, her gown glittering like frost. Ethan hovered beside her, looking like a man who thought he owned the day. When they noticed how much attention the furniture was getting, their smiles faltered. "Excuse me," Olivia said to a producer. "Why is my brother's name displayed so visibly?" "Because his work's part of the feature," Maya replied matter-of-factly. "He's one of the highlight artisans." Ethan stepped in. "We don't want the vibe to get cluttered." Maya blinked. "You mean crediting the artist?" Their discomfort was almost poetic. I kept my distance, chatting with one of the florists instead. She admired the love seat. "That green velvet. How did you get it to catch the light like that?" "Patience," I said, "and a little stubbornness." Then, mid-laughter, I felt someone watching. Mom. She was standing a few feet away, wine glass untouched, eyes soft in a way I hadn't seen since I was a kid bringing her my first carved spoon. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "You really made all this," she said finally. Not a question, a realization. "I did," I said quietly. She nodded slowly, tracing the table's detail with her fingertips. "It's extraordinary." Something flickered in her eyes, pride, maybe, buried under layers of habit. Then she straightened, smoothing her dress. "Olivia's upset," she added briskly. "She says you're making the day about you." I almost laughed. I was hired. I didn't even know it was hers when I said yes. Mom sighed. "You could have declined." "Declined success?" "No, Mom. I've done that enough times for you already." Her lips tightened. You've always misunderstood what we wanted for you. I don't think I did, I said. You wanted me to be someone else. She opened her mouth to argue, but before she could, the photographer shouted, "Bride and groom, over here on the love seat." Every head turned as Olivia and Ethan walked toward the very piece I'd built for that moment. They posed, perfect and polished, sitting on something they'd mocked into existence. The irony was almost cinematic. When the flash went off, the camera caught everything. The shimmer of the green velvet, the craftsmanship of the carved legs, and just behind them, me, standing by the archway podium, watching quietly. Later, during dinner, a few guests found me. A designer from London asked for my card. A hotel manager from Bath wanted a quote for custom tables. Each conversation felt surreal, validation after years of invisibility. Then, of course, Olivia found me. She cornered me near the catering tent, her smile tight enough to crack. "You had no right," she hissed. "No right to hijack my wedding." I blinked. I didn't hijack anything. I accepted a job. Professionally. Don't play innocent. You knew this was mine. "Actually," I said, "I found out after signing the contract. But I stayed because, for once, I wanted to stop hiding my work." Her voice trembled, half with anger, half with disbelief. "You wanted attention. Admit it." I shook my head. "No, I wanted honesty. You told me to lie about what I do, to shrink myself so you could shine. But look around. Live. People are admiring it without even knowing who made it. That's what real art does. It doesn't need permission." For a second, she looked like the sister I'd grown up with, vulnerable, unsure. Then she straightened, slipping the mask back on. "You always did love playing the victim." "Maybe," I said. "But you're the one who built your castle out of mirrors." I left her standing there as music swelled from the tent. As I walked away, Maya caught my arm. "You okay?" I smiled. "Better than I've ever been." That night, when the filming wrapped, the producer asked for a final shot. Me walking through the empty venue, brushing my hand over the carvings as the lights dimmed. When I got back to my truck, I turned one last time. The love seat glowed faintly under the fairy lights, a piece of my heart left behind. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the outsider anymore. I felt like the artist. The wedding ended like a movie that didn't know how to fade out. Fireworks, laughter, champagne bubbles rising against the night. From the outside, everything looked perfect. Inside, though, it felt like a dam had cracked. After the last guest drifted off, I loaded my tools into the truck while the crew packed up. The producer, Maya, came over, clipboard tucked under her arm. "You handled that like a pro," she said. "Handled what?" I asked, feigning ignorance. She smiled knowingly. "Let's just say I've worked enough weddings to recognize family tension when I see it." I laughed softly. "Was it that obvious?" "Let's put it this way. I didn't need a microphone to catch your sister's tone." I hesitated, then asked, "Is that going to be in the final cut?" She smirked. "Don't worry. We're editing the drama out, mostly. The focus will be your work. Trust me, when the episode airs, people will remember your name." That sentence sat warm in my chest the whole drive home. People will remember your name. The next morning, exhaustion hit me like a wave. My hands ached, my back protested, but I felt lighter. I brewed coffee and sat on the workshop floor surrounded by leftover fabric, wood dust, and sketches. For once, the mess looked beautiful, proof of effort, not failure. Then came the text. "Mom, the wedding was lovely. I hope you didn't mean to upset your sister." I stared at it, almost laughing. Didn't mean to upset her? I didn't even reply. I just silenced my phone and got back to work. By afternoon, Arthur dropped by. "You made the right choice showing up," he said, inspecting one of my unfinished chairs. "You didn't chase them, didn't beg for approval. You just let your work speak." "Feels strange," I admitted. "Like I won without trying to." He smiled. "That's the best kind of victory, the quiet one." Over the next few days, life began to steady again. Orders started trickling in from the exposure, small at first, then steady. One client wanted custom dining chairs. Another commissioned a full restoration set. My name was finally moving in circles that used to feel untouchable. Then, one night, as I was finishing a sideboard, I got another unexpected message. "Ethan, hey man, weird question. Olivia's really upset about the TV thing. Could you maybe ask them to not use your name in promos?" I stared at the screen, incredulous. "Me? You want me to hide my work again? Ethan, no, not hide. Just keep things classy. You know, for Liv's image. I didn't even respond. Instead, I took a photo of the finished sideboard, the intricate marquetry glowing under the light, and posted it with a caption. Made by hand, with no need to apologize. The post blew up overnight. Hundreds of likes, then thousands. Comments from designers, restorers, even a couple of journalists. One wrote, Liam Hayes is redefining modern heritage design. Arthur called me the next day, chuckling. You're trending, my boy. I didn't do anything, I said. Exactly, he replied. You just stopped shrinking. The episode aired 2 weeks later. Watching it felt surreal. The camera panned across my work, the tables, the podium, the green velvet love seat, while the narrator said, Restoration artist Liam Hayes brings heritage craftsmanship to a modern celebration. No mention of Olivia, no mention of the argument, just my art, standing on its own. That night, as the credits rolled, I sat back in my small apartment, tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. All the years of being the family embarrassment, the quiet one, the failure, all of it had led here. To this moment. The next morning, I opened my inbox and saw a flood of new messages. Interior designers, hotels, even a publisher interested in a book on my restoration process. Then came one more text. Mom, we saw the episode. Your work looked beautiful. I suppose I didn't realize it was real art. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. Then I typed back. Me, it always was, Mom. You just never looked. And I hit send, steady hands, no anger, no hesitation. Outside, the morning light poured into my workshop like forgiveness. I turned on the radio, picked up my chisel, and smiled. Because this time, I wasn't fixing broken things. I was building something new for myself. The morning after the episode aired, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. For a second, I thought it was a glitch. Then I saw the notifications, messages from strangers, fellow artisans, even journalists. Your story on design and detail was inspiring. Those carvings were unbelievable. How can we order? You made me cry, man. My parents said my art wasn't a career either. I scrolled for nearly an hour, every word hitting like sunlight after a long winter. People saw me now, not through my family's lens of failure, but through my craft. I was in the middle of sanding a walnut cabinet when Arthur called. You might want to check your email, he said, sounding amused. The subject line read, Feature request, Modern Heritage issue, Home and Design magazine. I nearly dropped my chisel. They wanted to interview me for a spotlight piece, photos, backstory, everything. Arthur said, This is the part where you stop calling yourself lucky and start admitting you're good. I laughed, shaking my head. Still feels like a dream. Dreams are what we build from wood and grit, he replied. Now, ride the wave. That afternoon, I went for a walk through the old market district. The antique shops, the cobblestone alleys, all the things I used to love before they became reminders of failure, felt new again. I passed a storefront where one of my early pieces sat in the window, a small, hand-carved clock I'd sold for £50 years ago. The tag now read, Restored by Liam Hayes, as seen on design and detail. I stood there a long while, smiling like a fool. Then my phone rang again. This time it was her. Liam. Olivia's voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Can we talk? I hesitated. About what? I saw the show. I didn't say anything. You were amazing, she said quickly. Really? I didn't realize how good you were. That's because you never wanted to, I said softly. She exhaled. Maybe. I don't know. I guess I thought you'd always be the one who stayed small. And it scared me that you didn't care about. About what? I asked. Winning, she whispered. That hit harder than I expected. Because that was exactly it. She'd spent her life chasing applause. I just wanted to make something that mattered. I'm happy for you, Liv, I said honestly. Really, I hope your wedding was everything you wanted. It was, she said, her voice trembling. Except, it felt like it belonged to someone else. There was a long pause. Then she added, I'm sorry, Liam, for the way I treated you. For all of it. I didn't rush to forgive her, but something in her tone was real, the first crack in years of polished cruelty. Thank you, I said finally. That means more than you think. After we hung up, I sat at my workbench, staring at the half-finished cabinet. For the first time, my heart wasn't heavy. The days that followed were wild. My website crashed from traffic. Clients booked months in advance. Arthur and I expanded our line, calling it Restored Roots. We even hosted a small exhibition, photographs of forgotten furniture reborn through careful hands. And at the opening night, standing among journalists and designers, I noticed someone at the door, my mother. She looked uncertain, clutching her purse like it might shield her. I walked over, unsure what to expect. "These are yours?" she asked, glancing at the display. "All mine," I said. Her eyes softened. "They're beautiful." "Thank you." We stood there in the quiet buzz of the crowd. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded photograph. Me at 12, sanding my first chair. "Your father took this," she said. "I kept it in my drawer. I just didn't understand it back then." I took the photo carefully. "You don't have to," I said. "You just have to let me." Her eyes glistened, but she nodded. "I'm proud of you, Liam." The words didn't undo everything, but they settled something inside me that had been rattling loose for years. As the evening wound down, Maya approached me with her signature grin. "You ready for Season 2? Season 2. We're doing a follow-up. Artist Who Changed the Game. You're on the list." I laughed, shaking my head. "Guess I'll have to build something even better." She winked. No pressure. That night, walking home under the soft hum of city lights, I felt the quiet kind of happiness. Not loud, not showy, just real. I'd spent my whole life trying to make something that would last. Turns out, what I built wasn't just furniture, it was myself. The night after the exhibition, I stayed late in the workshop, just me and the hum of the old radio. On my bench sat a small project, a chair I'd started years ago and never finished. The same design as the one I'd brought to my mother's house, back when they laughed. I reupholstered it with fresh dove gray linen and that same single green thread, my quiet signature. As I stitched, I realized how far I'd come, from begging to be seen to simply existing on my own terms. No audience, no apology, just craft. The door creaked open softly. Olivia stood there, in jeans and a hoodie this time. No glitter, no cameras. She smiled faintly. "You're still working late." "Always," I said. She looked at the chair. "That green thread again?" "Yeah," I said. "It's how I remember where I started." She nodded, her eyes glistening. "I think it's beautiful." I smiled. "Thanks, Liv." We didn't need long speeches or tears. The silence between us felt healed, not perfect, but honest. When she left, I ran my hand along the chair's smooth frame. It was simple, solid, real, like the life I'd finally built. I turned off the lights, the green thread catching one last glimmer of gold. And for the first time, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the start of everything I'd been working toward. Months passed in a blur of sawdust, laughter, and steady work. Orders filled the calendar. My collaboration with Arthur turned into a full-fledged studio, and we hired 2 apprentices, kids who reminded me of myself at 20, all curiosity and calloused hands. One afternoon, while teaching them how to repair dovetail joints, I caught myself smiling. I'd become what I'd always needed, someone who believed in the quiet workers, the ones nobody clapped for. My mother visited once more, bringing homemade cookies for the team. She wandered the studio, touching every finished piece like she was afraid it might vanish. "Your father would have loved this," she said softly. "I think he would have," I replied. Later that week, a letter arrived. No fanfare, just simple stationery with gold trim. From the High Ridge Estate. I unfolded it, half expecting something bitter. Instead, it read, "Your work transformed our venue. We'd be honored to commission more for future weddings." I laughed out loud. Life, it seemed, had a wicked sense of humor. That night, I sat by the finished green thread chair, my first and last reminder of where it began. I didn't need revenge or apologies anymore. Just roots, growth, and the quiet beauty of having built something that finally, truly lasted. A year later, I stood in my workshop doorway, sunlight spilling across the floorboards. The space had grown, new tools, new laughter, new life. The sign outside read, "Hayes and Blake Atelier, restoring the past, building the future." Maya's new season aired that week, featuring our studio. When my segment came on, it showed me carving quietly, smiling as I said, "Every scar in the wood tells a story worth saving." That night, messages poured in again, from strangers, clients, even old classmates. But the one that stood out came from my mother. "You've made something beautiful out of everything they once called broken." I set my phone down, looked around the room, and let out a deep breath. On the wall hung the green thread chair, polished, whole, no longer hidden in any mudroom. I ran a hand along its frame, feeling the smooth curve of victory carved in silence. No shouting, no revenge, no more proving myself. Just peace. And for the first time, I realized that had been the goal all along.